Roman soldiers conquered half the known world on breakfast. Not steak, not eggs, not even meat. The most feared army in history ran on porridge. Yes, actual mushy grain porridge. Every single morning. So what exactly was in that bowl? And how did it fuel a 2,000-mile empire? That's exactly what we're digging into today. Let's go back to roughly 100 AD. The Roman Empire is at its absolute peak. 5 million square kilometers under one flag. Somewhere between 300,000 and 500,000 soldiers are active. Every single one of them needs feeding. Every single day. This is the Roman army's most underrated weapon. Not the gladius, not the tortoise formation. Food supply, boring, essential, brilliant. Now, the word to know here is frumentum. It just means grain. Wheat specifically. Grain was the absolute foundation of a soldier's diet. We're talking about 2 to 3 pounds of it per day. Per soldier. Per day. Non-negotiable. But here's where it gets interesting. Roman soldiers didn't just eat grain as bread. Much of it was eaten as puls. Puls was basically a boiled grain paste. Think oatmeal, but grainier, and honestly worse. Romans actually associated puls with toughness and simplicity. Rich Romans eating fancy food were seen as soft. Pulse was almost a badge of honor, but puls alone would not survive a 20-mile march, so they added something completely unexpected to that bowl. Posca, a drink made from vinegar mixed with water. Sounds disgusting. Worked incredibly well. Vinegar killed bacteria and contaminated water. This was field sanitation before anyone knew what germs were. Armies that didn't do this died from their own water. Rome's soldiers stayed healthy and kept marching. Now here's something that will genuinely surprise you. Roman soldiers actually hated being given meat. Meat was considered a punishment ration. When grain ran out, they were forced to eat it. Soldiers complained bitterly in letters home. We actually have those letters. This really happened. One soldier wrote that meat was making them feel unwell. This is a completely backwards world from what we imagined. So grain was prized. Meat was the backup plan. But breakfast wasn't just grain and vinegar water. The army also issued olive oil as a staple ration. Olive oil went into the porridge and onto flatbread. It was calories, fat, and flavor all in one pour. Think of it like the Roman army's energy supplement. Then came salt. Non-negotiable. Absolutely critical. This is literally where the word salary comes from. Roman soldiers were sometimes paid partially in salt. Salt preserved food, replaced electrolytes, and flavored everything. Lose your salt supply and your army starts to crumble. Rome literally built roads to protect salt trade routes. The Via Salaria, the Salt Road, still exists today. All of this from a breakfast bowl. Now let's talk about what they added for flavor, because Roman soldiers were surprisingly picky eaters. Enter garum, Rome's most beloved and revolting condiment. Garum was fermented fish sauce, basically rotted fish liquid, extremely popular. Romans put it on everything, including their morning porridge. Sound insane? It's basically Worcestershire sauce. That stuff in your fridge right now is Roman army food. 2,000 years later and Rome is still in your kitchen. Alongside garum, soldiers often had hard cheese. Cheese traveled well and lasted without refrigeration. It also added protein they weren't getting from grain. Some garrison soldiers also had access to dried lentils or dried figs when trade routes were working well. But those were luxuries, not the standard issue. Standard issue was grain, salt, oil, posca. Done. Now here's the part most people get completely wrong. Roman soldiers actually cooked their own breakfast themselves. They were issued raw grain, not ready meals. Every contubernium, a group of 8 men, shared one grinder. They ground the grain themselves before every meal. On campaign, this happened at 4 in the morning. Before the marching, before the fighting. Grind first. This is discipline at a level most of us can't imagine. The Roman army didn't run on glory. It ran on systems. And those systems started with that morning bowl of puls. Now let's talk about what this actually means nutritionally. A Roman soldier needed roughly 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day. Their grain-based diet actually hit that target remarkably well. Complex carbs from wheat, Healthy fat from olive oil, electrolytes from salt, gut protection from the vinegar. These weren't random food choices. They were engineered. 2,000 years before sports nutrition existed, Rome figured out performance eating by accident through trial and war. That's genuinely remarkable. Here's the final twist that ties it all together. Rome's enemies were often better fed, and they still lost. Feasting armies got sick. Roman armies stayed functional. Consistency beat abundance every single time. The boring breakfast was the secret weapon all along. Discipline in the bowl meant discipline on the battlefield. Roman soldiers didn't conquer the world despite their breakfast. They conquered it because of it. Next time you eat boring oatmeal for breakfast, remember this. You're one fermented fish sauce drizzle away from empire. If you want more bizarre history served hot, subscribe. Because the real story of history is always stranger than the textbook, and it usually starts with what someone ate for breakfast.